Hey everyone, and welcome to the Tom's Hardware PiCast for August 31st, 2021. See a bunch of folks are filtering in. Fantastic. Um, and today, as always, I'm Abram Pelch, editor-in-chief of Tom's Hardware, joined by associate editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill, and our very special guest today, Raspberry Pi expert, YouTuber, and ethical hacker, Ellora James. Ellora, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, our honor. So, Ellora, can you tell the folks about yourself and what you do on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Ellora James. I am a fourth year university student. I'm currently studying ethical hacking. And yeah, I don't even know when I started it now, but a few months ago, I started my video and YouTube channel where I'm doing kind of everything Raspberry Pi, loads of projects, a few other bits and bobs thrown in there too. But yeah, just, having a lot of fun and sharing my hobbies and editing my videos is another hobby too. So yeah, it's been great, and the feedback I've had over the last few months is amazing. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
That's great. So you're studying ethical hacking. Can you tell folks exactly what that means?
Yeah, so ethical hacking is part of cybersecurity. My course is basically the offensive side of that. So, as ethical hackers, we basically pretend to be the bad guys, the malicious hackers, and we are trained and we learn how to go in and break into systems and do all of the stuff that malicious hacker would do that you see like the movies and stuff. But the difference is that when we can break into systems and break things, we don't do anything bad. We simply just report, how, and report back to companies and that, how they can fix it, what they've done wrong, how basically mimicking what would happen in the real world if they deployed this system the way it was. So a very important part of cybersecurity, and it's also really, really cool because the ethical hacking sounds cool. It's hacking's all the stuff you see in the films and that. So whenever people ask what I do as a degree, I've always got to explain it, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of this old movie. Well, old for folks who are not less than my age, called Sneakers. Do you remember that? Sneakers, less, where
Oh yeah,
their
Sneakers, Robert
whole
Redford, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah.
yeah, they hacked in. They were ethical hackers. They would do pen testing for. So, do you get the permission of all of the companies that you hack before you do it?
Yeah, so the university that I go to has a dedicated hack lab set up. So it's this room in the uni where all of the computers are completely on their own servers, completely disconnected from everything else uni based. And basically, once we enter that room, the things that we do there are legal. If we do it anywhere else with anything else where we don't have permission or the right software and stuff, then, it is illegal. But yeah, we have loads of specialist tools and computers and stuff, and also have it set up that we can connect to them remotely because of course COVID meant that we had to do it all from home. But yeah, it's all specialist equipment and things that we have at the uni.
That that is that is amazing. So, what are some of the things that you've learned how to hack?
Yeah, so the one of the things I really like about this course that we do is that it's actually quite wide ranging. Ethical hacking sounds like a really specific thing, but obviously that, cybersecurity applies to pretty much everything these days. Everything is connected to the internet in some way, shape, or form now. So, we learn all of the basics of, general programming and that, so we can then work backwards. Some examples of work we do is, network security. So we'll have like a mock kind of business network that we'll go in and have to, break into and do a pen test for our coursework. We also have deliberately vulnerable websites that we all got given that we had to break into. So yeah, lots of different things, but and we also have the opportunity to kind of delve deeper into very specific, maybe IoT or I know someone did quite a well-known project a little while ago looking at breaking into cars and how we can hack into cars, because a lot of them are connected to the internet now. So yeah, lots of different specialities that you can kind of go into depending on, you know, what you enjoy doing.
Wow, fantastic. So has this changed your view about what you feel comfortable using? Like, you know, have you feel differently about hotel Wi-Fi or things like that than you used to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was always kind of interested in cybersecurity before I went off to uni, but I didn't really know like a lot about it. It was just sort of, you know, we covered it 1 or 2 lessons in computing once, and I thought it was quite interesting. So yeah, definitely more wary of mainly kind of data and where that goes. One of the things we actually learn in our degree is kind of social engineering. So, you know, how we can actually manipulate people. So, you know, you see that in like phishing scams and stuff. You know, some people will go off into jobs where they'll be asked to, you know, physically, you know, get into buildings, and using like, you know, the classic people holding doors open and stuff to do that. And obviously, you know, data protection and OSINT, which is open source intelligence, looking at, you know, what information can you find about people just by stalking through their Facebook. And it's crazy what you can find, you know, just by, you know, diving deep into social media and other things. So yeah, that sort of digital footprint is something that, you know, I mean, I share all these videos on YouTube and stuff, but it's something that I'm aware of.
Yeah, wow. So how does Raspberry Pi come in when it comes to doing pen testing?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you know, I've got the merch on. I'm kind of obsessed with Raspberry Pis. It's one of the main things that got me into computing in the first place, and so I love them, and that's, you know, why I have my YouTube channel about it. Um, One of the recent videos that I put up on my channel is probably a good way of looking at this. You know, Raspberry Pis are so, you know, they're so small, they're meant to be affordable, they're meant to be easily accessible. And, you know, there's such a huge community behind them that they can be used in loads of different ways when it comes to ethical hacking and pen testing. So there's lots of dedicated operating systems that you can put on your Raspberry Pi. Obviously, in the terms of thinking like a hacker, they're discreet, they're small. You can kind of disguise them as other things if that's what you want to do. And yeah, I think one of the big things for me is the fact that they are so easily accessible. They're a really good tool, and there's plenty of things that you can use out there, you know, to practice and set up your own little web servers and stuff to hack into without having to worry about, you know, doing anything illegal or, you know, breaking your own systems.
That's awesome. So are you generally using trying to hack into a Raspberry Pi, or are you using a Raspberry Pi to hack into something else?
Both. So for my last piece of coursework that I did, I was like testing different operating systems and how they performed on the Raspberry Pi for pen testing, so comparing different tools and stuff. So I actually had a Raspberry Pi set up as its own little web server. It's something called Raspone OS, I think, and it basically it's its own little web server. You kind of log into the Wi-Fi that it has, and it has loads of deliberately vulnerable websites on it that you can use to practice your ethical hacking. So I had that set up headless, and then I was using another Raspberry Pi with the operating systems on that I was testing and the tools that I was testing, and then using that to hack into the websites that I had set up on the Raspberry Pi. So different uses for them depending on, you know, what it is you want to do.
So what what tools would you recommend folks use if they want to test the vulnerabilities in their own network and their own websites?
So yeah, if you're using, you know, if you want to practice ethical hacking, then Raspberry OS that I found was actually really, really good because it had all of the websites on there. Web hacking is something I really like doing. It's kind of my preferred thing to do. And I mean, yeah, Kali Linux is sort of your best bet because there's so many tools for everything. You know, I'd be here for ages if I was listing off, you know, every single one you could use. But Kali Linux is definitely your best bet because it comes with so much stuff, and there's a lot of documentation there as well. So yeah, it very much depends on what you are actually trying to break into. I mean, there's tools out there, you know, like Wireshark, where you can read network traffic. There's, you know, other things like, you know, John the Ripper, where you can crack passwords. There's also tools out there where you can test for SQL injection. So, like filling in forms on websites with, you know, code that gets executed elsewhere. And I mean, loads of different things you can do. But yeah, Kali Linux is your operating system, and if you are using a Raspberry Pi, then Raspbian OS is a great place to start if you're wanting to practice web hacking.
Yes. So you can see here I put the URL. One of the things that I think is intentional here is that Raspone, which is supposed to be something you can pwn, is on an HTTP rather than an HTTPS site. I think that's probably on purpose. Let's see. One of our viewers says we educate our users with no before. Interesting. I have not heard of that, Andy. But that sounds cool. So you also have been using Raspberry Pi for a bunch of other things as well, correct?
Yeah, so loads of different projects. I mean, that's what I love about the Raspberry Pi. You can kind of use it for anything, really.
So one of them, for example, is you've been using it to manage one of your plants, correct?
Yeah, as you can see here in the background. Yeah, so one of the first video actually, and it's kind of what started my YouTube channel, was the grow kit from Pi Moroni. I seen ages ago. I think it was a Kickstarter. It was like a smart plant pot that had a little face on it that would like be sad when your plant needed watered. And it looked really, really cute, but it was really, really expensive. And then I happened to see a couple of months later the grow kit from Pi Moroni, which uses the Raspberry Pi, I probably can't see very well, but I can't really move it forward, but basically has these little moisture sensors that are connected to the little hat that's connected on the Raspberry Pi, and it measures the moisture levels in the soil, and then has a little graph on it and tells you when you need to water your plants. So I was like, that's really, really cool. That's basically what that plant pot does, but for significantly less money. And so yeah, I asked for that for Christmas. I got it for Christmas, and I sort of wanted to start a YouTube channel. I watched loads of YouTube. It seemed kind of fun. When I was younger, I used to like playing around with Windows Movie Maker and stuff, so I thought that would be kind of cool. So I kind of, put two and two together, and I made that as my first video, and it did really well. And so, yeah, so to start off with, it was literally just measuring the moisture level, so I still had to water the plants. And then Pi Moroni really kindly reached out, and they sent me the stuff to add in the auto watering. So as you can see, it's on top of this box here, which is filled up with water. There's some water submersible pumps in there. They're also connected to the hat and the Raspberry Pi, and it all works together so that you basically set at what moisture level the plants need watered, and it will automatically water it for you. So I actually have 3 plants here. There's 2 tiny plant pots, which you can't really see. Those plants are doing questionably, but they're still alive right now. But my basil is doing amazing. This is about the furthest I've ever got with a plant. I'm not very green-fingered. But the auto watering is so good. Like the hat itself was really cool with the moisture levels, but yeah, the auto watering definitely saved my plant's life, going on holiday or when I just forget to water them. So yeah, they've been some of my best videos on my channel and super fun to make. And yeah, I'll probably add a few more plants to it at some point too.
Awesome. So how many Raspberry Pis do you own?
Loads. I've collected loads from over the years. I'm sorry I don't have more to kind of show you. There's been a bunch of things I've done over on my channel. So one of the ones that I did more recently with a Raspberry Pi Zero was using, again, more Pi Moroni stuff, their moat hat, which was little LED strips. And I made a bin reminder, which was sort of successful. So yeah, I basically set it up so that I had it very precariously blue tacked under the worktop in the kitchen above the bin. And the idea was that it would change color when the bins needed to go out, because between all of us living in our student flat, we didn't always remember to put the bins out. And it sort of worked. It's also sort of didn't work, to be honest. And I've also moved house. If anyone's watched my YouTube videos, you'll notice that the background's different. And now I live somewhere with communal bins, so I don't need to remember to put the bins out. So I have those LED strips, and I'm going to find something else to use it for. But that's something I did with the Pi Zero. I've also, I've had, been collecting pies here, there, and everywhere for years. I've done stuff like setting up RetroPie. I also took part in the AstroPie competition when I was in high school, and so I got a Raspberry Pi through that and the little AstroPie hat that goes with it. So
Oh wow!
yeah, I have loads.
Is your code in space?
It didn't make it to space, unfortunately.
Aww.
But I got all of the goods that went with it, and it was cool. It was cool to do.
That is really awesome. So, speaking of awesome projects, Ash, I know you have one that you've been working on to get your Raspberry Pi to speak. Although right now you are not speaking because it's quiet. Wait. Still no?
No.
Still no. By the way, as always, we're taking your questions and comments live. So do it live, and sometimes that means that stuff gets disconnected.
This is getting very familiar. I was doing this about 2 minutes before the show went live.
Nothing?
Oh, now I hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
A little distant, but we hear you.
Okay, hey, I'll take it. It's audio. All right, so I wanted to play around with text-to-speech because it's been a while since I've played with Microsoft Sam, and it seemed like a fun way to add an extra level of interaction with Pi projects, especially if you're making robots and stuff like that. I know Avram and his little boy like to build little robots. It would be fun to make it talk to people, right? Through a browser or something like that. So
once I learn how to do this, he's going to want to know.
It's so easy. The one that I'm playing with today is super easy to set up. It's called Festival, and it's really easy to use. You just install it, and then you start using it. So I'm going to switch screens really quick to a Pi that I've got that's running it. Now, to install it, all you have to do is run sudo apt-get install festival. Of course, you'll have to tell it yes to finish the installation. And once it goes through, you just run run some code. I'm going to switch over here to show the source at the bottom of the screen. If you want to go to the website of the developers to read more about it, it's https://cstr.ed.ac.uk/project/festival. And I know that's a little hard to understand for those who are listening and not who can't see the screen. So that website URL again was Charlie Sierra Tango Romeo .echo Delta .alpha Charlie .uniform Kilo /projects/festival. Now I'm going to move my mic over and hope.
Oops, you're quiet again. Let's see. Maybe she just has to move the mic.
Hello. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the PiCast Stuff.
Did you hear anything?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. So there we go. I don't know where the sound cut off earlier when I was talking, but there's a live demo of what it sounds like whenever it works. You can run it in terminal, but it would be so easy to integrate this with like a Python script. You could maybe make it tell jokes. You could interact with it from the browser. I know that you can. Avram's little boy likes to create robots, and they have a browser-based control panel. It would be really fun to just throw in a text box or something like that, so you can make your robot just yell at people as it goes by, saying whatever you want it to say, and just seems like a fun thing to add to almost any project, really. What do you guys think? Like, if you were to add it to something, any kind of text-to-speech, what would you want to add it to?
Definitely a robot, but I think there's probably lots of things. Games, for example. Can you can you put this into a Python script, or do you have to run it from the command line?
So far, I've only done it through command line, but I'm convinced where there's a will, there's a way, and you could probably make that work.
What do you think?
There's a library for text-to-speech called GTTS, Google Text-to-Speech.
Oh, yeah, that's another one.
That works really well, scarily
eSpeak,
well.
too. eSpeak is another one that I came across.
Now, how many of them, which of them sound like a speak and spell?
It's a good
All
question.
of them? So
I don't know what a
Ellora,
speak and spell sounds like.
Okay. You have to watch E.T.
Yeah, I haven't seen E.T.
Ellora, what would you use a text to speech for?
Good question. One of the things, like you said, Les, I've used the GTTS before. There was a Magpie issue that came out a few years ago where they were giving out the little Google Assistant thing. So it was like a little cardboard box with a button on it that used that, and it's still in my cupboard somewhere. I might bring it back out at some point. But I mean, yeah, I feel like robots is something really cool, and that's not really something I've played around with, so that's kind of on my list of things to do. But I guess I could probably also get my plants to shout at me when they needed watered.
That'd be cool.
That would be good.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Get it to say all kinds of cool things. Can you make any changes to the voice pattern, or is it always the same?
In this particular instance, I don't see a way to change it, but I haven't investigated too closely. There are some tools that I found that you could download different like voices that people had. Like there was one that had a female or a male or UK accent, American accent, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be pretty cool. So, Les, you've been working on some projects as well, correct?
I have, yes. I've been messing around with some SSDs for the Raspberry Pi. So I've got loads of stuff on my desk right now. So I'm going to go to the overhead shot so you can see it. I've tidied it up slightly as well, which is good. Make a disk from Cytron, and here they are. And here they are. So we've got standard 2.5-inch SSDs, SATA 3, 120 gig in this case. I've got a SATA 3 SSD M.2, and I've got some micro SD cards. And these were arranged created by Cytron, which has the Raspberry Pi OS already on the drive. So it's just plug and play. Plug it into your Raspberry Pi, and away you go. So I've been messing around with this today, see what I can do with it. And I'm going to show you the screen. So here is the Cytron website. And you can see a rough idea of the prices. It starts from $11 for a 32 gig SSD. The micro SD. The SSDs go from about $31 upwards. Now, the main benefit of an SSD on a Pi, as you've seen in one of our guides we've produced recently, is speed. It's a lot faster. So this screen you're seeing now is VNC from my Raspberry Pi on my desk. It's this one here inside the argon case to keep it nice and cool. And I can take us for a little jaunt around to see where things are, just as soon as I get this going again. There we go. So this is the Raspberry Pi. You can see I can open up web browsers. I can go to Tom's Hardware. And it's pretty nippy. It feels quite nice. It does like a little thing on YouTube. YouTube playback is still not very quick, but I can load up a page and it feels great for standard browsing. So I'll just go back to making this page. So yeah, here it is. $11 to $31. They're in the sale at the moment. They're quite good. I'm doing a review and I'll let you know all about them later on in the week. But I'm just going to show you quickly how fast they can be. So here is the standard Raspberry Pi diagnostic test. And this is found in the, accessories menu here. I've just got it ready to go. And it runs a test to see how fast a micro SD card is. In this case, it is a 2.5-inch SSD connected via USB 3 to my Argon case Raspberry Pi 4. It's an 8 gig model Raspberry Pi 4 as well. And Dylan, yes, it does boot off the SSD. In a guide I wrote a few weeks ago now, I show you how to get the firmware update on a Raspberry Pi 4 to boot from an SSD. And it's really nice and fast now, nice and nippy. So the test has happened while I've been talking. It says pass. And Rightly so. I'll open the log to show you how fast it is. Let's just go to it. There we go. So the target speed, sequential write speed, is 10,000. And I've blitzed past that at 36 meg per second. Nice and quick. And the NVMe drive, sorry, not NVMe, the M.2 drive, very similar speeds. MicroSD, I'm going to see a slightly slower speed, but these are Class 10 A1 XC cards, so it should be nice and quick. And I got these to have a test because it's all well and good. We can go out and purchase an SSD and plug it in and format it and get it ready, and it's not difficult to do. But for just a few dollars more, you can get something that's ready to go out of the box. So it could be handy, and I'm going to say this very quietly because we're approaching the holiday season, Christmas for me in the UK, and parents, aunties, uncles, that sort of thing, like to buy children or adults presents for Christmas like this.
Is this a hint, Liz?
The amount of SSDs on my desk, I seriously do not need any more.
But the backups,
Backups, I've got them off-site as well in a safe somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's no question, and Les has written the guide to this on our site, that it's just much faster if you can boot off of an SSD as opposed to your microSD card. Even the best microSD card, I think the card reader on the Pi 4 tops out at, I think it's a theoretical 50 megabytes per second, but I've never seen it go above, I don't know, like 30 or 29 or so. It never. So your 36 isn't bad there, but I think we've gotten more than that on other SSDs.
Very interesting. I'd be interested to see the facts and figures on that one. These drives, they're cost-effective drives. They're not going to be super-duper high-speed ones. But for a Raspberry Pi, do you really need much more than 36 meg per second transfer speeds? I'm probably guessing not.
Yeah. I mean, what we found, and Les, you were the one who investigated this, was that you can't do a lot to boot much faster on a Raspberry Pi. We could never get it faster than about 25 seconds.
Since then, though, I was doing some investigation last week, messing around with stuff for one of the tutorials that I wrote. It was I'll try and remember the words and put them in a sentence. Here we go. It was the booting to a video splash screen on a Pi. I did find something. You remember a coloured screen that boots up on a Pi? There's a way to deactivate that, and that does save 4 seconds.
Wow, that's a lot. That's like 20%.
4 seconds. Yeah. So I'm thinking we should really revisit that and see if we can shave any more time off it. Because last time we managed to get a little time off, but not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if we could get it to like sub 20 seconds,
that'd be ace.
Those are seconds out of your life right there.
That's it. All them seconds add up.
Yeah, no question about it. So now, of course, the fastest speeds that you can get on a Raspberry Pi would be to get a Compute Module 4. Is that correct? Because then you could go straight. You wouldn't be going through the USB port.
Yeah, they've got SATA connectivity now, direct on the CM4 via the I/O board, and that's a lot faster. I don't know how much faster, but something it just ringing in the back of my head. What Jeff Geerling's video said I saw recently, that it wasn't able to boot yet. You still need to have a boot medium like a micro SD card, and then the SSD would take over. But it's open source software, so I'm guessing someone's going to be working on it somewhere to make it happen, so we can boot from an SSD.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure we all remember when it used to cost like $600 to buy a 32 gigabyte SSD. Now you can have a $35 computer that boots off of an SSD and not break the bank. So that is great progress. So, Ellora, what are some of the things you're working on? What are some of the projects you're working on now?
Yeah, so I have a nice long list of just any random ideas that pop into my head. I just recently built my own PC, so that's going to be my next video. I filmed me doing that. It was stressful, especially trying to film it at the same time. And I've never built a PC before, so that was quite a lot, and I have so much footage that I need to edit down for that video. But that was really, really fun. So yeah, that's going to be my next video. And I have a few like big projects I want to tackle. Back in first year of uni, we got to play around with Wemos boards for one of the modules that we had, and our coursework was just to do something with them basically. And I made a very, very tiny sort of magic mirror type thing. It was very kind of thrown together. It was like a picture frame and some like two-way perspex and the tiniest little screen that you fit on the little Wemos board that got the weather and said hello or something like that, and it was all stuck together with blue tack. But it was really cool, and I was quite proud of it. So I really want to kind of redo that with a Raspberry Pi on a much bigger and much neater scale. But yeah, that's going to be quite a big project and also expensive. I've got to buy all the stuff for it. So yeah, I'd really like to do that. So that's kind of on my list. I also want to do some stuff with Lego and the Raspberry Pi. I haven't really decided what yet, but I was scrolling through Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and so I think it was the Pi Hut have a like Lego case for the Raspberry Pi, and I used to love playing with Lego. So I feel like there's something there as well. And yeah, and I just have loads of random stuff from things over the years that are all in boxes and that I found from moving house. So yeah, lots of different ideas. But yeah, my next video that's definitely coming out is my building a PC one, which was really fun, and I'm really excited for that one because obviously it's a little bit different from all my Raspberry Pi stuff.
That sounds like it's going to be awesome, and whatever you do with Lego is going to be a lot of fun because definitely a lot of people use Lego with Raspberry Pi. I was attempting the other day, did not come out so great, to 3D print a Lego compatible case for or stand for a Pico. Have you done any Pico projects yet?
I have not. No, that is also on my list to play about with.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be, although the back did not come out Lego, so I got to get stick the Lego back onto it. But if you get them right, then you can. I mean, there's a lot of 3D printing things you can do to make a Pi compatible with Lego, or you can just take. It's not hard to take Legos and sort of put them around a Pi to get that to hold it in place. My son has done it a bunch of times. Although you still want to provide adequate cooling and access to the ports. So you got to find the right way. But I think a great use case besides just having a case would be to use it for some type of a robot, especially if you can get it to interact with Lego motors or any of the Lego gear. We've sort of tried and successfully sort of gotten it to work with some of the Lego Bluetooth stuff, like the Lego Boost set and I think the Power, what's it called, Power Up. There's Python libraries out there for doing those things. So anyway, what is the best way for folks to keep up with what you're doing? Is it to go to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so YouTube channel is obviously where I post all my videos and stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is at Ellora_James. I have an Instagram where I post updates on my videos, which is at ElloraJ. And yeah, that's the best place to keep up with what I'm doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everyone who watched and listened or will watch and listen in the future. You can always catch our videos on the Tom's Hardware YouTube channel, on Facebook, and here live at 7:30 p.m. UK time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time on Tuesdays. See everybody next week. Bye.